You know, people like that had such a great influence on all of us, and probably others we haven't mentioned here today.
Yeah, there are just probably countless people. When we came, we weren't that big an institution in the early 70s, but still there were a lot of people, and we're indebted a great deal to some of those people who were here when we got here, and then even some who came a little later.
And these people that we've been talking about are kind of from their different generation,
Absolutely.
a different era, but they obviously had much to teach us, and they were willing to do that.
There's so many of the people we've mentioned really were basically, they were finishing up their careers as we were just coming in, and they were very, very gracious to mentor us. Now, the word mentor really didn't, I know it goes back to Homer, but but I mean, it didn't exist really in academia the way we use it now. But that's how we got through. We had these mentors, and it wasn't a one-on-one, because it would be like you'd have multiple fathers and multiple mothers who were there to help you. I mean, if I walked down the hallway on my way to class and my tie was a little to the side, you know, Amy Alexander would come up and grab me like and go, and she'd fix it right like that, and I'd say thank you. And of course, none of us could ever get our graduation robes on correctly if it hadn't been for people like that, or Janet Oldham.
Janet Oldham, Kay Smith, another, we used to call her the Pearl Mazda of Eastern, because she could put on a party with the best of them. And she was, I think she was chair of our social committee in English for life. We just wouldn't let her resign, and she did such a great job with things of that sort.
And that's funny, we came, I think after this year, there'll be nobody left in the English department who came in the 70s. So they're all now going to be, after this year, 80s people.
When you were a department chair, you probably experienced this more than I did, but I tell people that it's so much harder to be a faculty member today, because it's not about teaching your class and writing your articles. You know, you've got to fill out reports. You know, you have to do all this accountability stuff that before you can even start preparing for your classes. And I just think, I don't know how they...
The forms are amazing. You're right, the assessment. In the last, 5 years, the assessment movement and accountability has made it take more time. I think accountability and assessment, these are basically good things, but they are much more demanding of a faculty member's time. You figure now to teach a class, you've got all these electronic components to your class, and the students are used to it. So we go into class now with laptops, whereas we used to take briefcases. We used to take perhaps an overhead. Maybe we'd have a picture we'd hand out and let them pass around. Now, of course, everybody's looking at it up on the screen that you've projected off the internet. We used to walk up to the blackboard and we would write down the major concepts we were going to talk about. Today, you walk into the class and you hit a button, a PowerPoint, you know, it comes up. Well, all that takes preparation time. When we joined Eastern, there was one methodology. It was essentially the lecture method, the sage on the stage. In the last 15 years, there have been, two major paradigm shifts. One is we've gone from being teacher-centered to learning-centered, where you're worried about the student, what the student has learned in the class. The second thing that's changed, of course, is what we just talked about, the technology. That we are expected to know, students know, and if you don't basically meet that technology threshold with students, you're going to have a hard time teaching them. And the truth is that technology is always way ahead of pedagogy. And right now it's leapfrogging what's going on in the classroom. You've got students in class with their laptops, with their cell phones, and the studies are now showing that they're spending more time on their social networks than they are on their homework. They're spending more time in class paying attention to whatever they're doing with their cell phones and their laptops than they are with what the teacher's doing. So that has the two changes have created enormous burdens upon the new professor, and yet how many classes do we have for new professors to learn how to deal with this, either in graduate school or, say, at Eastern?
We are blessed at Eastern over the years Charlie and I have been here, and you as well, to have had so many stories like that of kids who've come in here, first generation. Every year we're astounded when at graduation they say, if you are a first generation college student, will you please stand? And every year half the graduating class stands. And I hope it never changes, that we can constantly bring in those people and give them an opportunity, because they end up being CEOs and being really contributing members to our society. And we're the place maybe that gave them just the boost they needed.
Right. Yeah, I claim 2 members of the Kentucky Senate, and both of whom, if you'd asked me when they were in school if they would ever end up there, you'd say probably not. But, well, we're out of time here today, and this has just been a fascinating conversation. I'm glad you all could listen in, because I've certainly enjoyed it. But Hal Blythe and Charlie Sweet, I think, have given us some insights on what Eastern really means, especially from the viewpoint of the faculty. And we sure appreciate you being here. And
Thank you for
having us.
We'll have other conversations like this.
Indeed.
We hope you'll join us again on our next EKU Then and Now.